Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today. This is the first warm-up webinar with our new no-code makers cohort. We're super excited to see you today. We hope you can hear us well and see us well. Of course, as always, let us know in the chat below. And as you're answering the question, also let us know where are you from, what do you do for a living, if you have already implemented some of the automations in your everyday work. If yes, in which position industry. We're super interested to see that and have a look. So we're hello again, first of all. So my name is Alexandra and this is Natalie. We are the authors of the NoCodeMakers program, which starts on the 29th of October, so very soon. This webinar, as you might notice, is in English, and also the content of the course of our program is in English. However, as always, you can easily ask the questions in the Q&A, both in Polish and in English, whatever you feel comfortable with. And also remember that you can also ask the questions during the webinar, so you don't have to wait till the Q&A session at the very end. Just shoot and we'll try to address them as soon as possible. Okay, so again, very excited to spend our evening today with you. Together with Natalie, we're the co-founders and co-CEOs of DareIT. We're also the co-creators and lead instructors of the NoCodeMakers course. However, my background, for example, is in design. So I have been a product designer in the tech industry for over a decade now. For over 5 years, I've been leading design teams. I have managed over 25 designers across Warsaw, Berlin, Oslo, and back. I'm super passionate about tech for good projects. In the last year, I've been focusing mostly on consulting and helping startups, both as a founding designer and consultant on their early stage product development, also with some no code and automations magic in the background. So I'm super happy to share that with you also during the course. I'm here today with Natalie.
Hi everyone. Hi Alexandra. Thank you for the intro. It's really nice to have this first webinar finally back in the game. Just a quick note about myself. I also have 10 years of experience in the tech industry, a bit of a different background than Alexandra. I'm more from the product management and senior management side. So amongst others, I was CEO of an 80 people software house called El Passion before founding or working on DareIT and NoCodeMakers and all the other things together with Alexandra. Most importantly for today, I have 5 years of experience in building no-code products and running a business based on no-code and automation, which is DareIT, where thanks to our no-code and automation setup, we've trained thousands of people to enter the IT industry. I was responsible for building the whole infrastructure and also for training our team in the no-code tools and automation tools. So I'm a huge fan and I'm really excited to talk about this today. And in essence, for today, what we have planned or what we would really like to do is to show you a bit about no-code magic. But not only talk about this no-code magic, this no-code revolution that probably many of you have heard about, but actually show you some real life examples of what no-code and automation in particular can do for you, so that you can get inspired maybe a little bit. And it's not just something so abstract, but you can actually see what this whole thing is about, and also show you how you can use this in your business, in your work, and how that can give you a competitive edge. So I think we're ready to get started.
Yeah, and keeping that in mind to set the background a bit regarding the...
Can we stop sharing the screen for a second, please? Thank you. So now you saw our notes. You see we're prepared.
Anyways, maybe before you sort out your screens, one note here. One of the reasons why we're speaking in English is because Natalie's Polish is in progress, but don't let that fool you. She understands, I want to say, almost everything in Polish. So again, this is why you can also ask the questions in two ways. In terms of what we are focused on today, like as we know, our business has and we, as our everyday life, has never ending and expanding to-do lists. And we know personally, also based on our experience, as Natalie mentioned, that automation can be the solution to this. But whenever we mention no code to either some businesses and, I don't know, fellow designers or other professionals in IT, we usually get answered that but it's a bit difficult to implement, or like, I'm not really sure what can I actually automate. So today is all about showing you what can be automated, starting with very quick and easy 7 steps to get you inspired and hopefully spark your interest in the topic.
Before we get into it, I'm actually curious about what is it that you would love to automate, and is there something that you would feel like, oh my God, I would really like to use no-code tools for this, or figure out how I can use no-code tools for this in my everyday business life or actually personal life as well. So let us know in the chat while we will, I think, give a quick run through the agenda, and then, really curious. So please drop it in the chat. What do you like to automate, or what would you love to automate?
So while we wait for the answer, a quick run through the agenda, or as a reminder, as we usually run our webinars. So again, I'll have a very short intro. We'll dive into our examples right now, so you can see 7 things that we can automate, or you can automate in your business based on the practical examples and how we were also running it in our company. Then we'll have a quick run through the NoCodeMakers course and what are different things you can learn within the program. And at the end, of course, you can ask, as always, your questions. So we're going to open the floor to the Q&A, and then we can get started, and hopefully, you can get inspired and enjoy the show.
Okay, so I think that we can now really share the screen. So let me know if it's shared. I don't see you anymore, so Ola, please give me a short heads up if you can see my screen.
Yes, so we can see your screen. Everything is great.
Fantastic. So just before I dropped out of the internal screen, I just saw a question, or not a question, actually a comment about something you would like to automate, and that is translation from English to Polish, or the other way around. And that is definitely one of the very nice things that you can do with automation. And I'll have a little thing about that later on. But in essence, actually, you can basically automate anything, and you can build anything with no-code tools, which is awesome. But at the same time, it's also a little bit overwhelming, I think, because it's like, okay, if I can do everything, that also means nothing. So what can I start with? So as mentioned, we're going to show you 7 very concrete processes in your business that you can automate. And show you also in practice a few, so how that actually looks like behind the scenes, and hopefully you'll get inspired and try to implement that in your own work as well. So let's get started.
So one of the first things you can definitely automate is feedback collections and gathering that, and also the reminders. And whatever position or industry you are in or you work in, is likely that at some point you will need to collect feedback, be it from your users or your team members, customers, employees, etc. But there are always certain pain points that come with it. So first of all, you need to create the form that you want to collect the feedback with. Then you need to send it out. Then you need to track who actually filled it out. Then you need to remind the people that haven't filled it out. And then if you're running qualitative data and also qualitative surveys, as for example, I often do as part of your UX research, takes you then forever to analyze the open-ended questions, synthesize them, and actually act upon them. So we want to show you how to make your life easier and less time-consuming in this aspect.
So let's have a look how that actually looks in practice. And as Alexander mentioned, there's a lot of different parts to feedback collection. And we specifically decided to start with this example because collecting feedback is something that I think many do, or many of us do across different roles. So it can be internal, it can be external. Like at some point, you will probably want to collect some feedback. And The advantage of doing this with no-code and automation tools is that on one hand, we are able to keep all of our data in one place. So we don't have to, keep a form somewhere, then the data goes somewhere else, and we have 500 different Google Sheets maybe, and then we need to export that because we need to analyze the data, etc. We have this all together in one place using no-code and automation. And what you can see here is actually a tool called Airtable. And this is one of the main automation tools that we use within their IT, but is also within the industry is very common. What it offers you is the fact that on the first hand, you can have this form for collecting feedback. This is just an example. It's an evaluation feedback from our their IT mentoring program. And so it's just a very simple form, nothing special about that. But what's great behind the scenes? Essentially, all answers to this form are going to be collected in one place, which is the same place as the form was. So already you eliminated having many different tools. Second of that, you can actually perform a lot of different things on this data. You can have a look at that, and I'll show you in a minute. But also you can kind of automate some kind of actions based on that. So again, you have everything in one place. What you can actually see here are essentially some example answers to the form, to this feedback form. So you can see there are some text answers, there are some kind of answers like somebody is supposed to rate a program, and some kind of open-ended questions. Great. So that's the first thing. The other thing that's really awesome about it is that you can really nicely analyze the data in here. So you can analyze, of course, some quantitative data. So you have some options to average out fields. But one of my favorite things about this is that built on top of this Airtable, you can include automations, for instance, using OpenAI. And what we have built, for instance, for ourselves is that we've created an automation which takes, this is the same view you saw before. So you have here the feedback we collected, and now we have two more fields that we have created thanks to automation, where essentially we are summarizing the feedback that was given to us by participants. So when we're actually analyzing the feedback that we got, which is taking usually a lot of time, here we have a first quick view about a general feedback of this person, summarized in one text. And on top of that, we also automated some kind of sentiment analysis. So OpenAI essentially tells us, hey, this is actually a positive connotation to the feedback. This is a negative. So we can also decide, oh, maybe this is a feedback, if it's negative, that we rather would like to act on. And again, already you have all of this in one place. And one of the other things that personally I find extremely useful, I think for most feedback service, you will need reminders because people, well, usually leave it till the end to answer or they forget, but actually sending reminders manually is a big pain in that. Yeah. So what you can do with automation is that you can schedule some sendouts, reminder sendouts, but you can exclude everyone essentially who has already submitted a review. So you need to set this up once, and in this way you can collect continuous feedback by reminders, but you don't need to send a manual reminder every time. I'm not sure.
Of course, I was muted. I was just
I was like, I don't see you, I don't hear you. Is it me?
We also got some questions in the chat from participants. What kind of tools you were using here, since some of the people joined us through their mobile? What we've mentioned here, that it was a combination of Airtable plus OpenAI to analyze the sentiment. If there's anything else you are adding, you could please feel beautiful.
Yes, we're actually using tools called Zapier and Make. They're connector tools. I will show you a little sneak peek of how they look like a little bit later on. Again, the point here is that I don't want to confuse you with the technicalities of how all of these automations are going to be set up. That's something that will take a little bit more time. My goal here is to show you what possibilities you have, give you a little bit already a taste of how the tools look like, so you start to get familiar with. But of course, feel free to ask if you want to know a little bit more what we're using and how that may work.
Yeah, we're definitely using a similar tech stack for different use cases. So you will be seeing similar tools across, let's say, the use cases, depending again on the challenge. And definitely the next challenge, or the one that I'm definitely struggling with always, which Natalie knows, is the accounting and document collection. I don't know if I'm the only person that has that struggle. It usually happens not only when you're a freelancer, but of course when you're running a business. And given how fast paced now business building and basically our everyday work with this is something that can definitely hold you back, because it's such a, I don't want to call it a small thing, but such an everyday thing. And at the same time, it can be such a tedious task, because you can waste hours just searching for the right files. Then important document can slip through the cracks. You have some errors when entering the manual data of all these documents. And basically, these challenges are simply frustrating on a daily basis, at least for me.
Not just for you. Let's move on to the next screen. I wanted to show you. Yeah, so actually, this is one of the first things we automated in our company, everything related to accounting and invoices. And I think there's two things that are really important. The first thing is we wanted to make sure, or what we have actually built is to make sure that all our documents are going to one place. So if we're looking for something, we know it's there, and this is from there we can also move it on to our accountants. By the way, this is my real inbox. About all of our invoices. And this is essentially all the invoices that get automatically moved to our Google Drive and to our Google Sheet. And from there, our accountants can take those files, and I basically don't have to do anything. And I just wanted to essentially share that with you, because I think it's one of the most powerful things that you can do, and one of the most pain relieving ones. So you see my inbox, and this is essentially where all of our invoices are being redirected to. And when they hit this specific inbox or this specific label, an automation automatically gets triggered, which takes the invoice and files it into a Google Sheet. So it actually also renames the file of the invoice. I think we're all aware when we have these invoices with very, very funny names that nobody remembers when you're actually searching for it. So actually renaming the file is something really convenient. And I have this Google Sheet now. This is, of course, an example. We have a very, very long Google Sheet with our business invoices, but the automation gets triggered when a new invoice hits my inbox, and it creates a new entry for this invoice. It also conveniently, as you might see here, adds this invoice to Google Drive. Again, this is just an example for now, but this is exactly how it works in practice. So it adds a certain invoice to this Google Drive. As you noticed here, I can even link to this document, and then from this shared drive, this is shared with our accountants, they can just simply take the invoices and do what they need to do with these invoices, and I don't need to lift a finger. And I love this automation, I have to say. And if you one thing that we have introduced, maybe not recently, but let's say since the beginning of the year, is to use OpenAI on top of that. Because one thing is, of course, to add invoices to the right place, to have the documents named in the right way. But the other thing is to collect data from invoices. So this is the same sheet that you have seen. This is how we used to have the automation, where we used to have to manually input the amount for every kind of invoice. And now essentially OpenAI parses through that invoice as well, and fills in all the invoice number, the amount, and the currency. And this makes things even easier for our accountants, but actually also internally, if we want to do some budgeting, we want to review some things, and we don't have to do this manually.
We got a comment from, not sure how to write the nickname, but basically that we had over 1,000 emails, and it seems like it definitely needs automation. I think it's also a very good comment regarding how many invoices we're juggling in general, and why this is exactly, as you can see, why we've decided to automate these processes and these elements as one of the first in our company.
But I think even if you had like 10 invoices per month, like it's just annoying. It's just an annoying process. So I think it's worth to set it up and just not have to think about. I'm always late with documents, so I will get these annoying, like my accountants getting angry, at least that's how it was. They used to get angry, like, where are the documents? And even if it's just 10, it can save you a lot of time.
We got a question from Martina. How do you make the emails? I can't speak today. How can you make the emails appear in Google Drive? If you could just quickly, again, I know that we didn't want to show in detail how to build these automations, but if you could just in general explain the logic or the magic behind it. How does it happen that you have an invoice, you send it to a certain email, and then everything happens in Google and you have the sheet and the drive and the access?
Yes. Maybe I can do that in a moment, because we're actually using a tool called Make to do that. This is I think my favorite tool in general, my favorite automation tool, which does a lot of things happening behind the scenes. So I think if I show that visually in a moment, I think it will be easier to understand what's happening there. So I would pin that question for a minute and get back to it when in a couple of slides.
Okay, when showing Make integrations, got it. So
Exactly.
Martina, please be patient for a second and we'll show you that shortly. So the first thing, if we're on the topic of mailings, as you already know, our inboxes are ever expanding, same as our invoices, but this is the struggle, but the similar struggle we always had with mailings. Not sure how dependent on communication per se is your business or your everyday work, but basically this is something that's very difficult to, I would say, escape. And in today's landscape, let's say, especially IT landscape. And it's definitely a juggling act, and it can definitely be a struggle because you can have a chaotic web of contact information. You might have different databases for clients, I don't know, your teams using different tools to actually do that. You can be stuck with some impersonal communication, and we know that customization at the moment is very important in terms of this experience. And you might also have some slow responses time, which can happen to all of us. And it's not only tedious and it's not only inconvenience, but it can also be I would say, very costly, because that can potentially cost you certain deals or customers relationships. So how can we personalize that and scale that and not go crazy in the process of the communication?
That's a very good point. I think there's so many types of mailings. There are, of course, kind of like newsletter type of mailings that you send out, I don't know, once a week or so. And for that, there are some really cool kind of out-of-the-box tools like MailChimp or MailerLite, or these kind of tools that you can use and you can work with that interface. And that is really great. They contain your contacts, etc. When it, I think, gets more complicated in your company, in your business, if you're trying to kind of, let's say, contact people based on actions, based on specific things happening, or you want to send them some kind of specific information related to them, it's some sort of a standardized email, but not really. That's where automation can get really helpful. And what do I mean by that? Not to keep it so theoretical. Let's go here. Let's take an example of actually from the NoCodeMakers course. And essentially, one of the things that we do during the NoCodeMakers course is build a whole kind of infrastructure no-code system for a company that rents out surf houses. Yeah, so, and what we have here is essentially a booking request form where somebody can request to book a surf house. This is just an example I want to show you, but we use something similar, for instance, when working with their IT, when somebody, for instance, wants to book a course or apply for a mentoring program. So I think you can extrapolate that. For now, let's stick to that. And let's say somebody sends a booking request. This triggers a few things in the back, blah, 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 like a lot of things happening in the back of the business. But essentially, the main thing that's probably going to happen is you will want to inform the customer, yes, your booking request has been received, or your booking request has not been received. And your booking request has been confirmed or not confirmed, not received, maybe also received. You can add that step as well. And if you don't have automation, you probably, so we're again in this booking in this form. So it's the second time you see a form. Again, we're in Airtable, so that's the tool we are using here. We're using the native form for Airtable. And then all the data from forms, as I mentioned, go into this data tab, into a data table. So let's say, for instance, we got a booking request. And let's say we got a booking request from Natalie, and we want to answer to Natalie, hey, thank you very much for your booking request. We're available for those dates. Here, this is your confirmed booking. If we don't have any automation, we would have to go to our email. We would have to write some email to Natalie. It would take a lot of time. We'd probably have to copy some data over. And with automation, we can trigger such kind of emails, which are in a way mass emails, because you're always going to say the same thing. Thanks for your booking. It's confirmed. Here are the dates. But they are also personalized, because you will want to add your name, or you might want to, and you need to add the dates, etc. So what we can do is, thanks to automation, and in a minute I will show you actually what does happen in the background, we can send this email, as I mentioned. So it says, thank you, your booking request has been confirmed. And it's not just a generic one. What you actually see is that, first of all, we have the name here. So this is Natalie. And when we have the date, this is your no-code surfer's house has been confirmed for these dates. You have the chosen package, you have the total price, and you have the booking ID, which is this booking ID here. And again, this is generated. So this is the advantage that on one hand, you have all of your contact details in one place. So similar as for the feedback, but the same thing you have here. So you don't have them scattered across, I don't know, somebody sends you a request in Gmail, and then you have all of that contact detail in Gmail. You have it in here, and then you can trigger some automated actions from this view. How does that actually work? This is how it works behind the scenes. And what I'm showing you here is a tool called Zapier. You can think of Zapier as something that is like a glue. So essentially what Zapier does, it glues Airtable to Gmail, and it sort of makes it happen so that the data from Airtable actually makes it to Gmail, and some kind of action is triggered in Gmail. And this is exactly what you see here. So we have here Airtable, which says, oh, a new record has been recorded in Airtable. So it was this new booking. Please send an email to this record. And again, I don't want to go into the details of how this is built. I just want to give you a little bit of a feeling like, okay, what is happening behind the scenes, so that it doesn't seem just like magic. And essentially what you see here, you have this email that I just showed you in Gmail, and you have these sort of dynamic fields where, based on the booking data, they are essentially filled in. And again, this is something really, really simply set up. And how do I even trigger this automation? I trigger it by simply changing a status here. If I set this booking to booking confirmed, what it essentially does, it starts this whole automation flow, and it sends out this email. And this is something that, I think a lot of these kind of emails, at least in our business, are happening, and having them all automated is super helpful, and it just saves us a lot of time. And staying on the topic of email, which is, I think, something, again, which spans a lot of different areas. One of the things that I find really powerful of combining no-code automation and AI, actually, is a flow. Again, I'm showing it to you based on the no-code surfers example, which you would learn in the NoCodeMakers course, but we have something similarly implemented at the RT. Essentially what it is, we have our no-code surfers example website. We have a contact form where somebody can send us a message. And what essentially we have implemented, thanks to Zapier and Make and OpenAI, is that when somebody sends us a message, this message is recorded in Airtable, so in this contact form. So I made here an example request where I made a request, hi, does the Pacific Breeze House have baby equipment? And what the automation then does, it actually sends a response to the person, which is sort of personalized. So if you will actually read it here, thank you for reaching out to us and considering the Breathe House. I understand how important it is to ensure everything is perfect for your stay, especially when it comes to baby equipment. And this is then automatically sent back to the person who made the contact request form. This message actually doesn't say much about the baby equipment. It says something like, we'll check this for you and get back to you as soon as possible with information. But it's just a really nice touch to somebody feel like, oh, maybe there was actually somebody who read my message. It's nicer than a standard response. A note, this formatting of this email definitely needs improvement, so you can actually format these emails nicer. This was one of the early tests that we implemented for the no-code servers. I just wanted to show it to you.
Thank you for mentioning that, Natalie, because I wouldn't be myself if I didn't add that the emails you're seeing are extremely simple and basic, but of course, if you add different, I don't know, either tools or styling, it's possible for you to have a very nice, proper email with like nice imagery, logos, certain things expanded, and other graphics that you might want to add. So that's,
we'll get to that. That's, for instance, an example. The one I showed you was a very simple, this email is very, 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 very simple, but you have options to, for instance, create something that's a little bit more styled or much more styled, so it looks much nicer. So of course, that is a little bit, I mean, it's not really complex. It's a little bit more to learn, but this is in the very simplest form. You can do something like that. And I wanted to show you I showed you the tool called Zapier. Now I'm showing you a tool called Make that I have already mentioned. And this is the tool that we are using that's behind this magic. Again, it's a connector. So what it does, it connects essentially this, and I'm closing this here, by the way, this was just, this is Airtable again, and it's just a record and Airtable. So it essentially what it does, it takes the information that was recorded here when somebody sent us a message. It does something with, so it records here, it does something with it. So it's running it through OpenAI, and then it's sending an email through Gmail. So it's this email here, and then it's going back to our Airtable, and it's updating Airtable, telling and adding essentially this response that was sent via email, and it's also updating the status of the of this email with the first response sent or whatever is set. So again, I don't want to go into the details of how Make works, but this is essentially what's going on in the background, and that's what's allowing us to connect these different tools.
Just to circle back to Martina's questions, like how do you make emails, let's say, appearing or signing up? I assume that this is the exact same logic here. So if you maybe could walk it as an example, but as I assume instead of OpenAI, we would be showing Google Drive or had different tools.
Yes, I'm actually gonna see whether I have it here. Give me a second. Yes, actually, this is exactly that automation. It's a little bit longer. Don't be scared about this. It might seem complex. And for sure, if you get started, or when we got started, it's not like we jumped right in and created an automation like this. The first automations were probably something more like 2 bubbles or 3 bubbles or modules. They're called modules in Make. But as you kind of, all of these automations are kind of expanding. You can think of it like a spider web. So you start with one, and then you add and you expand. You use the internet and the knowledge of the internet, ChatGPT, Cloud, whatever. There's a lot of information out there to help you build that. I would never claim that this was an original idea in every single step of the way. It is definitely something that the internet has helped me to build. But essentially, what it is, what happens is that when the email hits my Gmail inbox, I have a little filter in my Gmail, where if an email is sent to the invoice, to the email address invoices@it.io, please don't send invoices to this unless you have an invoice. But anyways, that's our invoice address. My Gmail, this is a native functionality of Gmail, labels it with a certain label and moves it into a folder. And then my Make automation is sort of listening for this folder and saying, like, oh, a new email has hit this folder. Let's kick off this whole automation. And what it does, it then takes the file. So it takes that email. Let me zoom in. Oh, sorry. It takes the file that was attached to that invoice. It uploads it to OpenAI. Let's skip that stuff for a moment. It's a technicality. It messages OpenAI, giving it an instruction. Let's see here. I said, oh, Jesus, I'm usually working with this on the mouse. Sorry if I'm making you seasick. Right, so here I have the instructions. Please take the invoice that you saw, give me the name of the supplier, the net amount, the date, etc., etc. So I have my prompt for OpenAI. I need to do some technical steps to take the data from OpenAI, and then I have the steps that actually upload the file to Google Drive with some kind of instructions here. So I'm telling it like where I want this to be. I want it in my invoices folder. I can give it some kind of file name convention. I can use some dynamic fields. These are essentially fields that are specific with data for a single record that generates this flow. And I upload essentially the invoice to the drive, and then I have my Google Sheet action where I essentially add a row to Google Sheet, or I make adds a row to Google Sheet. Again, I can define to which Google Sheet, what's the sheet name, and then here are the column names of this Google Sheet if we are going to. So here we have the month, file name, link. And sorry, we are here. So we have here file name, link to file, the supplier name, the invoice number, the invoice amount, etc. And that's essentially how it works in the background, and how these automations work.
So I hope now you have a better understanding of the step-by-step, or how does it happen, or what's the magic behind the logic of this automation. How does it happen? Martina mentioned that she really appreciates the answer. We promise not to go in too much detail in how to build automation, but it's difficult not to get caught up on it, because sometimes I don't know, it's nice.
Maybe you see a cool automation, you want to know how to build it. So.
And it's super useful, but let's get going. We still have a couple of other steps and ideas to cover. One of them is payments. And we know that in business, money matters, but so does your time. And we can always struggle with things such as you have some payment processing delays, or you're not sure what is the status of the payment, or you need to manually match the payments with the invoices and the accounting records, etc. And this is super time consuming. And it's definitely an easier way to streamline this process, especially when you're running your business.
So let's have a look at payments. I am again using the example from NoCodeMakers and NoCodeSurfers platform, not because we don't have any examples from our own business, but I think that it's maybe a little bit more complex to explain what we do as a business. So I think it's easier to follow what we have here in real life.
Let me just throw in, it's also a nice sneak peek into what you would be building as one of the practical projects as part of the NoCodeMakers course. So this is the infrastructure that in the end you would be able to build by yourself.
Exactly. So what we are looking at here is a tool called EasyCart. EasyCart is a payment processing tool. It's sort of a no-code tool and not a no-code tool. So you could think of it as like just a tool to process payments, but it actually works very, very nicely with other no-code tools and automations in particular. And one of the first things why working with tools such as EasyCart or Stripe, actually, Stripe is another tool, or EasyCart is actually built on top of Stripe. But okay, let's not go into details on that. Back to EasyCart is a tool that allows you to set up a payment page, let's say. So you have some products that you want to sell and you want to collect payments for that. And EasyCart gives you a really nice way to do that with a simple drag and drop interface. So for instance, here we have this villa that we are renting out for NoCodeSurfers, and we have some different pricing options for this villa, and we can essentially set up our product. It's called a product. You can see here, and I'll show you in a minute how that actually looks live, but we can essentially customize the whole way in which our customers are going to be able to purchase this from us. And we can use one-time payments, we can use subscriptions. I mean, this is not a possible subscription now, but if I created a new project or new product, sorry, I could create a subscription based, and I can customize the colors. I can add some images, for instance. Let's see here. And then I can very simply, essentially just share a link with someone. And I literally just take this link and I can share this with you in the chat technically, and you could purchase a stay at Algarve Serenity Villa. And your customers are now able to pay. So that's already something super nice. But on top of that, you can actually also add the option of issuing invoices. So tax ID, this is NIP, so the way to get tax information for invoices. So this is essentially something that you can use this tool for, and it simplifies and makes it possible for you to collect payments basically very quickly and a very quick setup and without having to code. And one thing that's super nice about this, and I mentioned, is the way that this integrates with automation. So now we are back in Airtable, and through the integration with EasyCard and Airtable, for every basically payment, we can record this payment in Airtable. So that's already quite nice, I think, because then we can have a good overview of all the payments we received. But on top of that, we can now link the payments to, let's say, to our products or the things we actually sold. So in our case of No-Code Surfers, for instance, going back to our bookings view that we had before. So we had all of these bookings that we received and that we confirmed, and now customers actually need to pay for that. So we can link essentially bookings and payments through a set of essentially automations, so that we know that this booking, and here it's actually linked here, is actually related to this payment. Here we are in the payment table. As you can see, there's a little connection here, so that I know that I don't have any payments anymore that I need to manually find, well, to which order do they actually relate to. Great.
We had one, maybe if you could go back for a second to payments, we got also one question from Gabriel regarding the automation, and maybe we can address it now, given the, let's say, flow of the presentation. Can we create automation product selection? It's quite a long question, maybe you can have a look. Can we create automation product selection, then booking date and time in the calendar, ending with payment? I will send the whole file with the calendar to the manager, putting it all in Webflow.
Okay, I'm going to answer that question maybe at the end when I stop sharing my screen, because I need to see it. It's a bit difficult to follow. So I will get back to that. I will remember, and then if necessary, I will share my screen again.
Great. So let's start this question at the end. Gabriel, we will remember to circle back to it about selling products, and now we can go back or continue actually to content. We've already had some heheshki on the chat that you're very into translating content as an example, given the fact that we're doing the webinar in English. As a reminder, Natalie's Polish is in progress, so this is why this webinar is in English, but the next webinar will be fully in Polish if that makes your day, hopefully yes. And in terms of content creation and the pain points around it, well, first of all, we know that in the digital age, and we also have the saying in UX that content is king, but how to make sure that the content creation doesn't become a royal pain basically for us, because as we know, it's not always easy to come up with the first draft, or how to keep up your content quality, or like the consistent quality of the content. And for all of you or those that wanted to build their audience, we also know how important it is to post a lot to build your audience and reach, and also how to basically post a lot, post continuously or sometimes even daily. So in this case, how can we make sure that we're reusing and maybe recycling some of the content in order to actually be able to keep up with such an intense schedule and have the content in a good quality?
That's actually one of my favorite automations that I wanted to share. I'm going to focus on one specific one, and it's all about how can you recycle content and use that for content creation and later on for content promotion, of course. And by the way, this is an automation that you would also learn in the course. But okay, spoiler alert. Let's get to the automation. Essentially, what this automation we've built does. It takes a video, it can be a webinar, for instance, or I don't know, you just record yourself speaking about something. And what it does, it first of all creates a transcript of that video. It creates a blog post out of the video, and it creates some kind of 3 types of social media posts out of this video. So that then you can, of course, use all of that to post and to share with your channels. It all starts with a form once again. So you see a form in the Airtable many times when you will be taking the course, but also, of course, when working with automations. And here you essentially submit all the information. And most importantly, you submit the file of the video based on which you want to create some content. And you tell the automation, which is going to be triggered to the form, what you actually want. And then, and I will show you how that looks in Make in a minute, but what comes out of this automation, you essentially get, again, in an Airtable form, you get a overview, or you get a return from the video. Here I inputted the commencement speech by Steve Jobs, the famous commencement speech at Stanford. And first of all, I got a transcript from, okay, so clearly this has been deleted. I should have gotten a transcript, or I did get a transcript. When I requested this, I didn't ask for a summary of the transcription, so this is empty, but I asked my automation to create a blog post based on the video. So here we go, you have my blog post. I asked my automation to create a LinkedIn post. So here I have a LinkedIn post where I can actually then link to my blog. I asked it to create a Facebook post, and I got an Instagram post. Is this perfect? Of course not. These automations, when we run this automation, we always still have to refine the content, and it's not the final version, but it incredibly speeds up our process of generating content, and good quality content, right? Because the input we are giving it, now it's the example of a commencement speech by Steve Jobs, but often we are just inputting, for instance, this webinar, we could input it tomorrow and get some output on that. And how does that look? This is how the Make automation looks like. Again, don't be scared. This looks complex. By the way, in the course, you would actually learn how to do this, and you would be able to, I'm 100% sure that you will be fully capable to do this by the time you actually get there. I don't want to go through the details of how this works, but I just also wanted to give you an idea that some of the automations are, of course, more complex, and you use a lot of different tools. This is the OpenAI tool. You're using Google Docs. You have Gmail. You have Airtable, and you have a lot of things happening. But first of all, it gives a really cool output, saving a lot of time. But also, it's fun to implement, and it's something that also grows over time. So I think we started with just blog post first, and we're like, why don't we let it create a social media post out of it first for LinkedIn, and we're like, why don't we expand it, etc. So yeah, I think that
it's definitely worth keeping in mind that as with every step, and this is something we always preach, let's say, when talking about automation, you really don't have to do it all at once. You can definitely start small, and as Natalie mentioned, we always started small in identifying the, let's say, one use case / pain point that we had. And as mentioned, we started with just thinking, okay, how can we turn this blog post, we have a lot of blog posts already, into social media posts, and then slowly, gradually, we started expanding and adding new features. And I also have to admit, as someone that's also overseeing the marketing activities, this is one of my favorite things, especially in terms of making sure that we really use the content we're producing and having, and again, it requires some review, but it's an excellent first draft and definitely a time saver.
Yeah. And again, my part.
No, I just want to say that at the end, I'm very curious to hear like which of the automations were maybe yours favorite. So the ones that are listening to us or hearing us, because we definitely have our own little pieces of
Yeah.
magic that we like most. Like for example, content creation, but maybe there's something else that sparked your interest.
Yeah.
Okay, and talking about sparking interest, let's say we're also planning an event, and this is something that can come in many firms. So I've mentioned about overseeing marketing activities. So we might also have some events and meetups, but maybe there are some HR events, or you have your company's birthday or whatnot. And let's just say that inviting people, managing confirmation, reminding people about confirming attendance, and then making sure that everyone has the information they need and they see it in the calendar, blah, blah, blah. It's definitely a lot of manual work. And on top of that, so we know it's not an easy task. And on top of that, there's always more than one event within a year. So that was a definite pain point for us identified. And this is how we went about solving it.
Sorry, I forgot to move to the pain points. But yeah, I mean, this is one of my other favorite in the sense that it's not very fancy in terms of automations, but I think it's one of our most used setups, and also I think it's very useful in many different contexts, because just as collecting feedback, I think many of us at some point will organize some sort of event. And an event can be, of course, a webinar like today, but it can be an internal company party. It can be a birthday. It can be a lot of different things. So, advantage of automation, I will start to sound a bit like a broken record probably, but first thing, again, we have one form where we can collect all attendees information. So here, for instance, we have a form for our fictional NoCodeMakers party that we are inviting to and that we are asking for confirmation. So again, we have the form, we have all the data about confirmations, or actually not confirmations. Again, we have them all in one place. And now the beautiful thing that we can do from here, rather than having to send again manual confirmation to someone like, hi, thank you for signing up, remember about coming, or maybe even inviting somebody to a calendar event, we can now do this all in an automated way. And we can send, and here we can send an email and a calendar invite, and here we have a much nicer formatted email. So I hope this is a little bit nicer for you're happier with this design. So you can, this is also automatically generated when somebody is essentially signing up or confirming their participation. It has some small personalization because it has the first name. It has some styling. So we're actually using a tool called SendGrid in between. So we are using Airtable, Make, and SendGrid to provide these kind of styled emails. And also we are sending, this automation is sending a calendar invite, which I think is also great. It's such a small thing, but it actually is something really nice to send, and to, if somebody is invited to an event, to send the right information, the important information to the right people without having to do this manually. And one other thing that is really, really nice is that once this infrastructure is set up once, so once we had it set up for one event, organizing the next event doesn't require to do everything again from scratch, but we can, in a few clicks, adjust a few things, and we can use the same setup and even then compare. So what I have here, for instance, is another view in Airtable, or another table in Airtable, where I have not here, if you might remember, here I have all the signups for an event, and here I have an event summary. So here are some fictional events that, let's say, we're organizing at NoCodeMakers, and then I can even kind of aggregate data and say, like, what was my sign-up goal? How many signups did I actually get, by kind of summing up all the people that signed up to this event in my sign-up table, and I can make some calculations. I have some formula fields, so I can calculate, for instance, my goal completion. I had a goal of having, I don't know, 470 signups for this event. I got 503, and this is all calculated manually in here. So of course this is very useful for events, but it's actually very useful in general to have these tools for analysis and calculation and not having to do all of that manually.
Okay, and since we were talking about parties and organizing events, I think it's only fair that we end with vacation and holidays management. But one note here that our dream holiday or vacation can basically become a manager's nightmare, especially when you have conflicting vacation days. So thinking about pain points and frustrations is definitely something that can be if you not only go to pain points and frustrations, that's definitely something that can be basically can introduce chaos, because we have slow approval process, or many people have conflicting holiday days, or on top of that we need to manage payroll, etc., etc. So let's see how to do it, because again, there are definitely tools that you can use in order to manage it if you're using certain custom or out-of-the-box solutions. But maybe for your context or the business you're running or the team you're working with, it's just an overkill. So we want to show you an alternative of how can you build it yourself.
Yeah, and this might feel like a quite specific example, like, okay, I don't need to build a vacation request form for my workflow or for my company or so. You can actually, what I'm showing you now for the setup of a vacation request could be for any kind of request. It could be because somebody's making an expense request, or somebody making a request for the learning budget, or you're requesting anything. This works with a kind of budget. This works. And essentially what this does, we're back at our form, and this is very much part of many automations. And this is a vacation request form. Yeah, so somebody can request, I say who they are, and they can request date range for their vacation request. This request then, as you know, ends up in our vacation request table. Because all of the data from forms ends up there. And here we essentially get an overview for all vacation requests by employee name. Yeah, so before, you might remember, you just saw a view where you had a lot of just rows on top of each other. But Airtable, again, we're in Airtable. Actually, most database tools, no-code tools, give you this option to kind of customize the feel, the look, to group fields, to essentially make this useful for you for doing, not just looking at data, but also and triggering automations, but also doing stuff with it. What do I mean? For instance, let's say that as Natalie, I have recently submitted a vacation request from the 2nd of October till the 3rd of October. You can see here that the status is still empty. So I can see here an overview that this is something that, still needs to be approved or not. What I also can see here is that I can see how many vacation days are remaining. Again, it could be vacation days, it could be some remaining budget for something, I don't know, like some remaining budget. And then I can see here how many days Natalie has requested, and I can say, okay, I had 2 days remaining. She requested 2, that's fine. And then I can change the status here, move it to approved, and this now triggers some kind of follow from on top of this. I can then build on follow-up automations. You can of course leave it like this and that's that, but wouldn't it be nice if now, rather than having to inform Natalie, hey, thank you, yeah, your vacation request has been approved, wouldn't it be great if the system does it by itself? So what it actually does, and I wanted to show you this because you can build, I showed you Zapier and Make before as these kind of connecting tools that are happening sort of in the background, connecting different tools and running automations. You can do a lot of things directly in Airtable already in the automations tab. And this looks a little bit similar to what we already saw with Zapier. So you have some kind of a trigger, and then you have some actions carried out. And essentially what this automation does is when a vacation request has been approved, it sends an email to the person. In this case, it was Natalie. It sends an email saying like, "Hi Natalie, your vacation has been approved," and it also sends a Google Calendar invite to the whole team with the dates of the leave of the employee that requested it. So again, all it takes is to kind of have a look at this, and then if you are more in payroll, for instance, maybe you you want to, I don't know, see, for instance, you can group not only by employee, but you can group by year as well, because you need to see how much did somebody take more days than they should have. Do they have something that's carried over to the next year? Are there some unpaid days? So you can really manage this all all through this view. And one little gimmick I just wanted to show you, because I really love this automation. You can connect it, for instance, with an internal messaging tool. This is Slack. And actually, when a new vacation request is submitted, so through the form, to a specific channel, I get a message, hey, there's a new vacation request. It's by Natalie for these and these days. This is a different vacation request now. It's 5 days. Remaining budget is empty. So actually, there's no remaining budget. And it already tells me, and this is actually a field. Let me find it. This is a field from our Airtable view, which is kind of computing whether my request is still within limit or not. It's telling me, hey, the request has exceeded the remaining days, so I probably shouldn't accept it. If it was fine, I can just approve the vacation request directly from Slack, and it would change, or it should change the status right here. Again, I don't want to bore you with or go into details of exactly how this works. Oh yeah, as you see, it actually just changed the status. What I just wanted to show you is that you can connect Airtable and actually all no-code tools with the tools with which you work on a daily basis where you are, so that you can really set up your workflows in a way that is more time efficient for you. Because maybe it's just for us, for instance, we're working in Slack every day. So if I get a new request directly in Slack and I can approve it in Slack, that saves me, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes of my time, and just feels really good.
And it's also easier, it basically makes our life easier as well, because it's less probable that we will miss certain things, because we're on Slack every day, and as you see, inbox can get super overloaded. So it's very nice to have also those small reminders that you need to attend to someone, or certain automation has been made, or request was fulfilled. And I'm happy, Natalie, that you've also mentioned a case about the context that we want to, or like the tools are just the tools, but basically it's important for you to adjust it to your everyday context, because this is also the question we got from Anna in terms of some of the automations we would show is, would they also work with Microsoft 365? And of course, I mentioned that both Zapier and Make have these possibilities to integrate. So the logic is the same. You just need to select different tools.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly, nothing to add. Nothing to add to that. Right, so I think we're definitely through the 7 types of processes that you can automate in your daily work, in your business. Again, these are some examples of processes that you can that we have automated. These are also things, all of the things we showed you today, you would also learn how to build as part of the NoCodeMakers project, and I think a few more words on that in a second. But essentially, what I want to say is that I think you've seen that automation is super helpful. And I know I'm a big automation geek and fan, and I love to work with it. But I think that most of you will see that there are a lot of pain points related to processes. I'm sure you all feel them. And working with these no-code tools is a way that can help you, take care of tasks that you repeat very often and you just simply don't want to carry out. It doesn't make sense. It just takes a lot of time. There's no value add. So automation is great for that. Automation is great for tasks where you need to avoid errors. So we were talking about payments and avoiding errors there. I think it's just machines are more likely to, or we're more likely to make mistakes as humans. So automation is great for these kind of things. But automation is also great for areas where you want to provide some more personalization, and especially at scale where you wouldn't be able to do this manually. Again, personalizing emails, but also using the OpenAI example of giving a personalized response to someone when they contact you. So that's I think the main areas where you can really use automation and be really creative and adjust it to your use case. getting started, of course, we showed you a lot. I said, don't be scared. We didn't start like that. To get started, we got started, and this is also how we always recommend to go, is to get started small, to start with a very specific use case, and then from there to expand, like a spider web kind of thing.
Those are definitely the things that we're always preaching. So start small and then build upon like a spider web. This is also what we were preaching not so long ago at Design Ways in Krakow. But coming back to the course itself, or the webinar as well today, we just wanted to show you a bundled dose of automation, basically show you different use cases that and inspire you to basically see what can be done. And if this sparked your interest and you want to learn more, you want to learn step by step on how to use no-code and automation tools, and you want to learn with us, join us in the NoCodeMakers course. So as promised, a very quick rundown of the program before we move on to the Q&A section of this meeting. And Natalie,
there we go.
Natalie will handle the screen. So you can, of course, read for everything on our NoCodeMakers website. At the same time, what I want to highlight is that this is a 6-week program where you will get, of course, learning materials, tasks, and time for your project. What I can't stress enough is that we're all about learning and practice. So, of course, you will have certain tasks to familiarize yourself with automation, no-code, but what's very important for us is that you have hands-on practical experience. So you can also work on the NoCodeMakers, no-code surfers project that we've shown, but of course you have also the opportunity to execute your own idea. So we can quickly build prototypes, validate the product, or maybe some side hustle that you're thinking about. And what's also really cool is that you're learning as part of the community or a cohort. So it's not only, me, myself, and I, but hundreds of other people that want to learn automation and no code that you can learn from, ask questions. Of course, you also have access to me and Natalie, to our Q&A sessions, and questions on the chat, so we can also support your learning process in that matter.
Yeah, so the course starts on the 29th of October until the 18th of October. You have access to, or we have a promo price ongoing. So you save 500 zloty if you sign up by the 18th of October. You have a few benefits. So of course you do have a 14-day no questions asked guarantee, return guarantee. So if you want to resign from the course because it's not what you expect, or you don't have time, or whatever reason, we will not ask you. You can resign within the first 14 days of the course. You have a chance to have to pay in 2 installments with 0%. So it doesn't go through any debt systems or so. It's just directly from us, very straightforward and quick. So you can pay in 2 installments, and of course you can, if you would like to get your employer to co-finance or finance the course, we have a little that's also possible, and we encourage you to go for that. And we have also a discount for groups of 3 or more people. And if you want to know more about that, you can contact NoCodeMakers at brave.courses.
And maybe what's also helpful to mention is that if you got by any chance a bit maybe scared or worried of the automations and what you saw here, and maybe it seemed complex, before you even start the course, you get very comprehensive pre-work where you can familiarize yourself with the tools, take a deep breath, see what you will be dealing with, start in a very small way, start already with your first automation, and just have a look at it. And if you want to have a bit of a sneak peek of the course, be sure also to join our next webinar in Polish this time, where you will also get some mini lessons from the course, so we can also see in practice, apart from what we've shown you today, how will that look. Okay, so without further ado, we're a bit over time. I think we can stop sharing the screen at the moment, but we can circle back to some of the questions that were asked in the beginning of the course. Some of them we've already answered, but there's one question from Adam Brudnicki, and the question is: will NoCode 2.0 include work with Airtable, CodeBuilder, and interfaces?
It covers partly interfaces, though we don't go fully into details, but there is a part about it. I'll give you an introduction and showing you how to work with interfaces.
And also with some templates.
Yes, also with some templates.
Then we got a question from Gabriel. So the longer one that you also wanted to have a chance to read. Can we create automation product selection, then booking date and time in the calendar, ending with payment? Maybe let's stop here.
I'm trying to understand the flow. So you select the product, then you select when you, I guess, want to have this, and then with the payment, and then send the whole file with the calendar to the manager and putting it all in Webflow. I want to say yes, because I would say that that is possible. We might have to, or you might have to chunk that into different steps. But the way I understand it is that you just essentially want to send some info. You want for your user to be able to choose a product and kind of choose for which specific time this product is to be carried out, purchased, or I don't know, some time and date related to that product. And then you want to send that to someone who needs to know which product was purchased and for which time period. So that's for sure something that's doable, and probably that you would have to combine some kind of form and easy cart view. I'm not entirely sure what you would like to put into Webflow, so it would be helpful to have a little bit more detail of what you would like to do in Webflow. You have a very nice integration between Airtable and Webflow, where you can update kind of items on Webflow. So many things are possible. Not all, actually all, but then you will have to code a little bit. But yeah, so if you give me a little bit more detail, maybe I can answer better.
And I think the answer was just fine. And for sure, we're also showing how to add this integration with Airtable and Webflow as part of the program, and how to merge them, and also maybe make them a bit more complex from starting small as always, and then building to next points. Then circling back to Anna's question about does the automation also work with Microsoft 365? So as we've mentioned before, of course, there are certain tools that we use within our tech stack that we wanted to show you, but the logic is the exact same. So usually when you're choosing the tools, of course, automation can meet you in your context or where you're at. So as an example, if we're using Slack as a communicator, of course, this will be our go-to tool. Or if we're working with Google Sheets or Gmail, that's also the tools that we're selecting. But of course, there are many more possibilities, and both Make and Zapier have the integration with Microsoft 365.
I would say that no code and automation is a way of thinking. I think so as a basis, you can implement that with many different tools. I used to implement automations using Excel VBA, or just Excel. And that's also possible. I would say that there are some tools, and especially the tools we showed you today, that are more intuitive, that are more powerful maybe, and that are easier to work with. And that's also, for instance, why we have chosen them. So there are certain advantages of using certain tools, but in general, they're a tool. So they're supposed to help you in what you want to build, and not the other way around.
Thank you for that answer. We got a very nice comment from Natalia Nitarska, which I remember from the first edition of the course. It's super nice that you're here with us. And she just wanted to share that the course changed the way she managed her work and personal projects and think about processes. So I think it goes very nicely in line of what you said, Natalie, that no-code and automation is also a way of thinking and building and structuring, let's say, not only your product, but also processes and work. So thank you, Natalie, for sharing. That's really nice. And it's really nice to see you here.
I think something Natalia, if I understand, Natalia mentioned mentioned to me once, is that Natalia works in an academic setting where I guess that acceptance of new tools is maybe not so straightforward or not right away. And I know, Natalia, it took you some time to convince people to use them, but I love that you shared that at some point you are getting more and more questions. So what are we going to build next? Can we do that? Can we do that? So this is just to say that, of course, there are certain settings where I think implementing no-code and automation is a little bit easier from an organizational perspective if you're working on your own project or in a small business, but it doesn't mean that it's not implementable in a bigger organization. It might be a little bit harder in the beginning, but actually then it's really worth it, I think.
I think that, and this is also something we usually share, that in terms of how to convince my boss to automation or your boss to automation, it's, I guess what works best is to get one pain point or one use case and basically show the contrast between doing that manually or in the current way versus with a quickly built automation or not a very comprehensive one, and how much that can speed up the everyday tasks and reduce errors. I think it's always easier to build a case with something practical. Maybe just to build on that point of this environment and also introducing no-code tools, one of the questions we also sometimes get is it expensive to introduce automation into a company? So maybe if Natalie, you could say a couple of words on that.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, there's a cost to introducing automation. So I think that the first cost is the learning cost. But I would say that in comparison to, I don't know, for instance, learning to code, learning to no code is negligible. So that is something that was quickly repaid and time saved. So that's sort of the upfront investment. And the second thing is that, of course, we have shown you, you've seen a variety of tools now. Many of them have free tiers or free plans. For some of them, at some point, you will run into, especially if you're using them on like a daily basis and a bigger scale, you'll run into limitations. So you'll have to buy paid plans, but still the costs are really fairly low. So our cost for infrastructure varies. Sometimes it varies between, let's say, $100 and $500 monthly. And we run a business, we run a business which is supporting thousands of people. If we didn't have these automations, we would need a software engineer on board. We would need to invest into a lot of other things. So these $100 to $500 for us is a really small amount to pay. I'm not saying that if you start your project, that's how much you will have to pay. So please don't think that. As I said, there's a lot of most of the tools, actually all of them have free tiers, especially for learning. So in the beginning, you don't have to pay anything, and then you pay for those that you need.
Okay, thank you, Natalie, for this answer. Thank you for your questions in the chat. Be sure if there are any new questions that come about, especially regarding the program, be sure to ask them at our NoCodeMakers@brave.courses. You can also call us. You have the number and all the contact details at the end of the page at the NoCodeMakers PL. So if you're interested or you have any other doubts or questions to answers, be sure to reach out to us. Also, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and NoCodeMakers page. We'll be, of course, gladly providing updates and new tips and tricks on how to automate certain things or basically learn no code without any chaos. And remember that till October 18th, you will still have a discount of 500 zlotys for the course. And on top of that, of course, you have the bonus discount that comes with joining today as part of the.
Yeah. So if you sign up until the 18th, you save 600 zloty. And of course, we will have the recording, or you will have the recording of today's webinar on your email tomorrow. Make sure to add us to your trusted sources so it doesn't end up in spam.
Okay, so thank you again for spending this evening with us, and hopefully automations and no-code spark your interest and you understand a bit better how can you use it to make your everyday life easier and basically gain some of that competitive edge in both business and maybe your personal or daily tasks. So Thank you again. Goodbye,
Thank
and
you.
hopefully see you in the course.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.